A British fleet is slowly moving towards Copenhagen. It is the spring of 1801, and the British have had enough of Denmark-Norway. The country is to be forced into listening to the British demand not to trade with Napoleon's France. The 2nd of April 1801, the British fleet reaches Copenhagen and is met by big wooden warships positioned in a long defence line off the Danish capital. A fleet of wooden vessels was extremely costly and demanded much maintenance. Denmark-Norway had many thousands of kilometres of coastline and numerous islands and colonies on the other side of the globe. Therefore, the navy was essential to the cohesive force of the realm and its survival. In the late 1700s, Denmark-Norway had one of the largest, most powerful and most expensive fleets in the world. The huge fleet demanded great attention, and Holmen, where the ships were built and maintained, was the biggest workplace in the country. As many as 2,000 oak trees were used when building a single ship of the line, the greatest of the Navy's ships. When the great ships of the line and frigates were launched, they were included in the Navy's figures. At the time, they were described as being available for active service, which meant they could partake in battle, but they could also be employed for other practical purposes. They could, for example, be sent off on long-term expeditions as escort ships that were to protect Danish merchant ships. Most of the warship's period of service was spent inactively in the dockyard. Mast and rigging had been taken down and they'd been emptied of content and cannons, and then covered with temporary roofs to protect them from wind and weather. And then they would lie there, waiting to be fitted for sea. After some 10 to 15 years, the ships were rather worn and had loose hulls, and they continued to be included in the Navy's figures, and they remained in the naval dockyard, but they were employed for other purposes. They could be used as hospital ships, or they could be sunk to serve as the foundation of a sea fortress, or, as was done in the Battle of Copenhagen in 1801, they could be used as platforms for artillery that was to defend Copenhagen against an attack from the sea. When the Battle of Copenhagen ended in the afternoon on the 2nd of April, it was a clear British victory. It had been a tough day for the Danish fleet. Around 1,000 Danes and Norwegians had been killed or wounded. 2 Danish ships had been sunk. A third was burning, and meanwhile, 1 ship of the line and a number of smaller vessels had been conquered by the British. The defeat became absolute when the British returned 6 years later and conquered the rest of the Danish fleet.